Dr. Alan Wright pushed his glasses up and stared at the computer screen. The numbers made sense now. After 20 years of work, the equations finally balanced. His hands shook as he saved the file and leaned back in his chair. The small office in Oak Ridge was quiet, except for the hum of computers and the ticking of an old wall clock. Outside, people went about their normal lives, not knowing what had just happened. Alan had found a way to affect stars. Not just study them or use their energy, but change them. Maybe even destroy them. He picked up his phone and called a number few people knew. "It works," he said simply. "The model is stable." 3 days later, 2 black government cars arrived at his house. Men and women in dark suits asked him to come with them. Alan packed a small bag and left behind his quiet life. He knew this would happen. His research was too important, too dangerous to be left alone. The Nevada desert stretched out wide and empty around the secret base. Deep underground, Alan met Admiral Diane Foster, a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She led the military side of what they now called Project Sunbreaker. "Can you really do what you claim, Dr. Wright?" she asked, looking at him like she could see through him. "Yes," Alan said. "We can make a star burn faster, slower, or tear itself apart. The science is solid." Admiral Foster nodded. "Then we begin building tomorrow." Workers arrived by the hundreds. Scientists, engineers, military personnel. The underground base grew larger each week. Lieutenant Samantha Ortiz was put in charge of weapons systems. She was young but brilliant, with steady hands and a quick mind. Chief Engineer Paul Johnson handled the power needs. He was always covered in grease, always solving problems no one had faced before. "The power requirements are impossible," Paul told Alan one night. Both of them tired after 18 hours of work. "Nothing is impossible," Alan replied. "Just not solved yet." They worked for months, then years. The ship they were building was unlike anything made before. They called it the UES Horizon, but everyone soon started calling it World Breaker instead. Its heart was Alan's invention, a device that could reach into a star and change how it burned. In 2087, Earth was different than a century before. Humans had survived terrible climate disasters. 2 small nuclear wars had scared everyone into an uneasy peace. And 7 years ago, alien ships had appeared above major cities. The Arcsur Confederation had made contact, shown humans their technology, and then treated them like children. They were tall, scaled beings with 4 eyes and technology centuries beyond Earth's. They allowed some trade but kept humans from joining their galactic council. They were not enemies, but not truly friends either. What the aliens didn't know was that humans had been studying their ships, their tools, their science. Alan had combined Arcsur knowledge with his own theories to create something new, something the aliens never imagined humans could build. The construction site grew busy with activity as the ship took shape. It was massive, nearly a mile long, with strange bulges and curves that housed equipment no human had dreamed of a decade ago. "Will it fly?" Admiral Foster asked during one inspection. "It will do more than fly," Alan promised. "It will change everything." One night, Alan found Samantha sitting alone in the cafeteria. She was staring at nothing, a cold cup of coffee in front of her. "What's wrong, Lieutenant?" he asked, sitting across from her. "I'm building weapons that can kill stars," she said quietly. "Do you ever wonder if we should?" Alan had asked himself that question many times. The Arcsur aren't the only aliens out there. Some might not be as peaceful. We need to protect ourselves. By becoming the most dangerous species in the galaxy? Alan didn't have a good answer. He just knew that humans needed to be strong in a universe that might not be friendly. The work continued. Paul solved the power problems by creating new reactor types. Samantha built targeting systems that could aim across light years. Admiral Foster brought in the best crew from around the world. 3 years passed. The ship was nearly ready. Captain Eric Daniels was chosen to command it. He had fought in the Mars colonial conflict and was known for being both brave and careful. His second in command was Commander Lisa Martinez, who questioned everything but followed orders when decisions were made. This ship could start a war, Lisa told Eric during their first meeting. "Or prevent one," he replied. "Our job is to make sure it's the second option." The day of the first test came quickly. The massive underground doors opened above the ship. The Nevada sky appeared as a blue rectangle far above. Thousands of workers stood watching as the engines powered up. Alan felt his heart beating fast. This was his life's work. "Primary systems online," Paul reported from his station. Reactor at 50% and stable. Samantha checked her screens. Weapons systems in standby mode. All safety protocols active. Admiral Foster stood straight and proud as she gave the order. "Take her up, Captain." Eric Daniels nodded from the command chair. "Thrusters to 10%. Gentle and steady." The ship rose slowly at first. Dust swirled around it. The ground shook. Then it moved faster, climbing toward the open sky. People below cheered and cried. Some prayed. Alan watched through the bridge windows as the ground fell away. Blue sky surrounded them, then darkened as they climbed higher. Stars appeared. "Ship is performing as expected," Lisa reported. "All systems normal." The Earth became a blue ball below them. Alan had seen pictures from space before, but never like this. Not from a ship that he had helped build. Not from humanity's first true warship meant for the stars. "Take us to lunar orbit," Eric ordered. "Let's see what she can do." The engines pushed them faster. The moon grew larger in the view screens. They reached orbit in minutes instead of days. The ship moved like nothing built before. "Run a full system check," Eric told the crew. "I want to know everything is working before we test the jump drive." Alan walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Arxer had their worlds and fleets. They thought humans were barely worth noticing. That would change soon. Dr. Natalie Garcia joined him at the window. She had worked with Alan from the beginning, checking his math and improving his designs. She was quiet, but always saw things others missed. "Are we doing the right thing?" she asked softly. "We're ensuring our survival," Alan replied. "By building a weapon that could destroy entire solar systems? By showing the galaxy that humans can't be pushed around." Natalie didn't look convinced. "I hope we never have to use it." The test continued for hours. Every system was checked and double-checked. The ship performed better than anyone had hoped. It was faster, stronger, more agile than its design suggested. The crew grew more confident with each successful test. As night fell on the Earth below, Admiral Foster called the bridge from Mission Control. Her face appeared on the main screen. "Congratulations, Captain. Your ship has passed all initial tests. In 3 days, you will make your first jump to Alpha Centauri. This will be a demonstration only. No engagement with any Arxer ships you might encounter. Just show the flag and return." "Understood, Admiral," Eric replied. "We'll be ready." After the call ended, Alan looked around the bridge. These people were about to make history. They would take the first human-built starship to another solar system, and they would carry with them the power to destroy stars. The Worldbreaker hung against the black of space, its hull reflecting sunlight. Inside, the crew prepared for their real mission. Alan returned to his quarters and sat on his bed. He thought about Samantha's question again. Was this right? Did humans need a ship that could shatter stars? He didn't know. But in 3 days, humanity would step onto the galactic stage in a way no one could ignore. The quiet skies were about to change forever. 3 days passed quickly aboard the Worldbreaker. The crew ran drills and checked systems. Captain Eric Daniels studied reports in his quarters. The jump to Alpha Centauri would be the first real test of what the ship could do. Eric had fought in space before but never traveled beyond the moon. No human had ever left the solar system in a human-built ship. Commander Lisa Martinez knocked on his door. "Final preparations are complete, Captain. We jump in 6 hours," Eric nodded. "How's the crew?" "Nervous but ready. They understand what's at stake." What was at stake was more than just a test flight. The Arxer had grown bolder in recent months. They had built military stations near Pluto, claiming they were for scientific research. They had blocked Earth from joining galactic trade agreements. Their ambassadors spoke to human leaders with thinly hidden contempt. "This mission could change everything," Eric said. For better or worse, Lisa's face showed concern. "The weapon Dr. Wright built, have you been briefed on what it can truly do?" Eric had read the reports. The Sunbreaker array could accelerate fusion processes within a star, causing massive solar flares or worse. In theory, it could make a star collapse or explode. "The power to destroy entire solar systems, I've been briefed," he said simply. Lisa lowered her voice. "And you're comfortable carrying that kind of weapon?" "Our orders are to test the ship's jump capabilities. Nothing more. The weapon stays offline." This seemed to satisfy Lisa, though not completely. She left to continue preparations. Eric stared at the mission plans on his screen. A simple jump to Alpha Centauri, a brief survey and return. No contact with any Arxer ships they might encounter. Just a quiet demonstration that humans could now travel between stars. On the bridge, Dr. Alan Wright worked with the engineering team. The jump drive was based partly on ARCSR technology that humans had studied and improved. It would create a temporary tunnel through space, allowing the ship to cross 4.3 light-years in moments. All calculations are triple-checked, Alan told Paul Johnson. The jump should be smooth. Paul wiped grease from his hands. Should be? That's not very reassuring, Doc. Alan smiled slightly. In science, nothing is certain, but I'd bet my life on this working. You are betting your life, Paul replied. We all are. As the jump time approached, the crew took their stations. Lieutenant Samantha Ortiz sat at the weapons console, though her systems would remain powered down. Dr. Natalie Garcia monitored the scientific equipment that would record data during the jump. Communications Officer Kevin Barnes checked the long-range transmitters that would keep them connected to Earth. Captain Daniels entered the bridge and took his chair. The crew straightened as he sat. Status report, he ordered. Engineering reports ready, Paul said. Navigation plotted and locked, reported the navigator. Communications standing by, Kevin added, one by one. Each station reported ready. The massive ship hummed with power as its systems prepared for the jump. All hands secure for jump, Eric announced shipwide. We are about to make history. The countdown began. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers. Through the viewports, Earth and Moon hung in the blackness. Soon they would see different stars, a different sun. Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Light flashed across the bridge. The stars outside seemed to stretch, then vanish. For a brief moment, the view screen showed nothing but swirling colors that hurt the eyes. Some crew members felt sick. Others felt a strange pressure, as if being pulled in all directions at once. Then it ended. New stars appeared. A different sun burned bright ahead of them. Jump complete, Lisa reported, checking her screens. All systems functional. We've arrived at Alpha Centauri. A cheer went up from the crew. Alan smiled broadly. His life's work validated in that moment. Humans had crossed the stars in their own vessel. The celebration lasted only moments. Alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. Multiple contacts, Samantha called out. Ships detected at bearing 140. Kevin's hands flew across his console. I'm picking up transmissions. Definitely ARCSR signatures. The main view screen shifted to show what the sensors had detected. A group of alien ships hung in space ahead of them. They were sleek, with curves and angles that human engineers couldn't match. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic blue sheen. There were at least 15 vessels arranged in a battle formation. They're moving to intercept, Samantha reported. Weapons appear to be powered. Eric sat straighter in his chair. Open a channel, Mr. Barnes. Let's talk to them before this gets out of hand. Kevin worked his controls. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Eric Daniels of the United Earthship Horizon. We are on a peaceful test mission and mean no harm. Please respond. The screen flickered, then showed the interior of an alien vessel. An ARCSR commander stood there. Like all their kind, it was tall and thin with scaled skin and 4 eyes set in a wide face. It wore what appeared to be a uniform of dark material with symbols humans couldn't read. Earth vessel, the alien said, its translator making the words sound flat. I am High Admiral Zexakalorn of the ARCSR Confederation. You have entered restricted space without permission. Your presence here is a violation of Directive 447. Eric kept his face calm. We were unaware of any restriction, Admiral. Alpha Centauri is unclaimed space according to our understanding. The alien made a gesture that might have been dismissal. Your understanding is irrelevant. This system is under ARCSR protection. No human vessels are permitted, Lisa whispered to Eric. They never declared this system restricted before. Eric nodded slightly. Admiral, we respectfully request clarification. When was Alpha Centauri designated as restricted? The designation was made by Confederation Council 3 of your months ago. Your government was informed. That was a lie. Earth had received no such notification. Eric glanced at Kevin, who shook his head slightly, confirming what Eric suspected. There seems to be a misunderstanding, Eric said carefully. We received no notification. We will depart immediately to avoid any conflict. The alien's upper eyes narrowed. Before you depart, you will submit to boarding and inspection. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. The bridge crew exchanged alarmed looks. Allowing aliens to board would expose all of Earth's new technology, including the Sunbreaker array. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Admiral, Eric replied. We are under orders to maintain security protocols. This is not a request, Zexcalorn said coldly. You have 1 hour to comply or be destroyed. Our vessels have you surrounded. The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a moment. Options? Eric asked his officers. We could jump back to Earth, Lisa suggested. The drive can be ready in 30 minutes. Samantha shook her head. They could fire on us while the drive powers up. We'd be defenseless. Can we fight? Eric asked. Against 15 arcs or warships? Samantha looked grim. Not with conventional weapons. Everyone knew what she wasn't saying. The only weapon that might save them was the one they had been ordered not to use. The Sunbreaker Array. Send an encrypted message to Earth, Eric ordered Kevin. Inform them of our situation and request instructions. Kevin worked quickly. Message sent. Given the distance, we should receive a reply in approximately 8 minutes. They waited. The Arxur ships moved closer, taking positions around the world breaker. Their weapons were clearly visible, aimed at the human vessel. Why are they doing this? Natalie asked quietly. They've never been openly hostile before. Alan's face was troubled. Perhaps they've realized what we've built. What this ship can do. The reply from Earth came precisely 7 minutes later. Kevin decoded it and handed the message to Eric. The captain read it silently, then looked up at his crew. Earth Command orders us to defend ourselves by any means necessary, he said slowly. We are authorized to deploy primary systems. The bridge went completely silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Captain, Natalie said, her voice barely audible. If we use the Sunbreaker Array here, we need to understand what might happen. This isn't just a weapon. It could affect entire worlds. Eric looked at the message again, then at the Arxur ships surrounding them. The choice before him would change human history forever. Prepare the ship for possible combat, he ordered, and start evacuating non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Just in case, the clock was ticking down. In less than an hour, they would either surrender Earth's greatest technological achievement to aliens who clearly meant them harm, or they would use a weapon of unimaginable power. The quiet skies of Alpha Centauri hung in the balance. Alarms sounded throughout the world breaker as crew members rushed to emergency stations. Captain Eric Daniels watched the countdown timer on his screen. 53 minutes remained before the Arxur deadline. In less than an hour, they would either surrender or fight. Evacuation of non-essential personnel has begun, Commander Lisa Martinez reported. First escape pods launching now. Eric nodded. How many can we get off the ship in time? Maybe half the crew. The pods are designed for short-range use. They'll be vulnerable if the Arxur decide to target them. That was a risk Eric had to take. Better some of his people survived than none. He turned to Communications Officer Kevin Barnes. Any response to our second message? Kevin shook his head. Nothing new from Earth Command, sir. Last order stand. Those orders echoed in Eric's mind. Defend yourselves by any means necessary. You are authorized to deploy primary systems. Earth had given permission to use the most destructive weapon ever built by human hands. Dr. Natalie Garcia entered the bridge, her face pale but determined. She had refused evacuation, insisting she needed to stay if the Sunbreaker Array was to be used. No one understood the weapon's science better except for Alan Wright himself. Captain, she said quietly, we need to discuss what using the array might mean. This isn't just a weapon. It's potentially an extinction-level event for any system where it's deployed. Eric gestured for her to continue. The array works by accelerating fusion reactions within a star, Natalie explained. Depending on the power level and duration, it could cause anything from solar flares to a complete stellar collapse or explosion. We've never tested it on a real star. Our simulations suggest we could control the effect, but we can't be certain. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. Using this weapon might destroy not just the Arxur fleet, but potentially habitable worlds in the system. Are there inhabited planets here? Eric asked. Lieutenant Samantha Ortiz checked her sensors. Scans show no major settlements in this system. The Arxur appear to be using it as a staging area, not a colony. There's a small outpost on one of the outer planets, but it's minimally staffed. That was something, at least. Eric turned back to Natalie. Is there a way to use the array without causing maximum damage? Something that would disable or drive off the Arxur without destroying the entire system? Natalie considered this. Theoretically, yes. If we target the system's secondary star, Alpha Centauri B, and use a controlled burst, We might be able to create a solar flare event large enough to disrupt their ships but not destroy the star itself. How certain are you? Maybe 60%? This is untested technology, Captain. Eric didn't like those odds, but they were running out of options. The Arxur ships had moved closer, their weapons locked on the world breaker. Any attempt to jump back to Earth would leave them vulnerable during the drive's charging sequence. Prepare the array, Eric ordered. Target Alpha Centauri B, minimum effective power. Alan Wright, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. I'll help calibrate the targeting system. As they worked, Chaplain William Moore entered the bridge quietly. He was an older man who served as the ship's religious counselor. He had also refused evacuation. Captain, he said, many of the crew are frightened. They understand what might happen here today. So do I, Chaplain, Eric replied. What would you have me do? William looked at the screen showing the Arxur ships. I can't tell you how to command. I can only pray that whatever decision you make, it's the right one, and that God forgives us all for what we might become. Eric felt the weight of those words. The world breaker carried a weapon that could destroy stars. Using it would change humanity forever in the eyes of the galaxy. They would no longer be seen as a young, developing species, but as something dangerous, something to be feared. 30 minutes to deadline, Lisa announced. Eric made his decision. Prepare a final message to the Arxur. Tell them we wish to negotiate safe passage home. No boarding, no inspection. Just let us leave peacefully. Kevin sent the message. The response came quickly. They're not budging, sir, Kevin reported. High Admiral Zex Kalorn says surrender is our only option. They're sending boarding shuttles now. On the tactical display, small craft detached from the Arxur vessels, moving toward the world breaker. All escape pods have now launched, Lisa reported. Remaining crew at battle stations. Eric looked around at his bridge crew. These were the people who would witness and help create a moment that would change human history. Dr. Garcia, Alan, are you ready? He asked. Both scientists nodded grimly. They had been working on the targeting console, programming the array to strike Alpha Centauri B with precise calculations. Powering the Sunbreaker array will take 7 minutes, Alan explained. Once it's charged, we can fire immediately or hold charge for up to 3 minutes before the systems risk overheating. Begin power-up sequence, Eric ordered. Target locked on Alpha Centauri B, minimum effective yield. Alan entered the commands. Deep within the ship, the massive weapon began to draw power. The lights dimmed slightly as energy was diverted to the array. Arxur boarding shuttles will reach us in 12 minutes, Samantha reported. They're hailing us again, Kevin said. On screen, Eric ordered. High Admiral Zex Kalorn appeared, his 4 eyes narrowed. Your small craft have been detected. This attempt to evacuate crew will not save you. Surrender your vessel now or we will open fire. Eric stood from his chair. Admiral, I urge you one last time to reconsider. We have weapons capabilities you don't understand. Allow us to depart peacefully and no one needs to be harmed. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Your primitive vessel poses no threat to our battle group. Your weapons are known to us. Your technology is inferior. You have 20 minutes remaining to surrender. The screen went dark. They're powering up weapons, Samantha reported. I'm detecting energy buildup in their forward arrays. Sunbreaker array at 40% charge, Alan announced. 5 more minutes until ready. They might not have 5 minutes. Eric turned to Lisa. Can our conventional shields withstand their first volley? Lisa checked her screens. Unlikely, sir. Their weapons are significantly more advanced. Evasive maneuvers, then. Keep us moving until the array is ready. The world breaker began to move, its engines pushing it in an unpredictable pattern. The massive ship was not designed for agility, but it could change direction enough to make targeting difficult. The first Arxur shots came seconds later. Energy beams lanced through space, most missing the human vessel. One struck a glancing blow to the port side. Shield 1 down, Lisa reported. Hull breach on deck 7. Damage control teams responding. Another hit rocked the ship. Consoles sparked on the bridge. Array at 65%, Alan called out. 3 minutes remaining. The world breaker shuddered under another impact. More alarms blared. Multiple hull breaches, Lisa reported. We're losing power to the starboard engine cluster. Lieutenant Ryan Taylor at Tactical looked up from his station. Sir, at this rate we won't last until the array is charged. Eric gripped the arms of his chair. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than expected. Fight with a weapon that might destroy a star, or surrender and hand over Earth's greatest technological achievement to a hostile alien power. Continue evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Push the engines to maximum. The ship lurched as it changed course again. 2 more Arxur shots missed, but a third struck directly amidships. Major damage to decks 4 through 6, Lisa called out. Fire suppression systems activated. Array at 80%, Alan reported. 2 minutes to full charge. Eric watched the tactical display. The Arxur ships were closing in, tightening their formation around the world breaker. Their boarding shuttles continued their approach, protected by the larger vessels. Another hit rocked the bridge. A support beam cracked overhead. Weapons control systems damaged, Samantha reported. Conventional defenses offline. Array at 90%, Alan said, his voice strained. 1 minute remaining. Eric made his final decision. We don't have a choice. Prepare to fire the Sunbreaker array as soon as it's charged. Target the system's secondary star as planned. Natalie moved to the targeting station. Coordinates locked. Preparing for minimum yield burst. The bridge fell silent except for the alarms and the sounds of the ship being torn apart around them. Every person there understood what was about to happen. They were about to use a weapon that could destroy stars. They were about to change humanity's place in the universe forever. May God forgive us, Chaplain Moore whispered. Array fully charged, Alan announced. Ready to fire on your command, Captain. Eric took a deep breath. Fire. Nothing happened at first. The bridge crew held their breath. Outside the viewports, space looked exactly the same. The Arxur ships continued their approach. Another energy blast struck the world breaker, making the deck shudder beneath their feet. Did it work? Eric asked, looking at Alan and Natalie. Alan checked his instruments. The array fired correctly. Energy beam deployed at full strength. Then why? Eric began. Look, Samantha said suddenly, pointing at one of the sensor screens. The display showed Alpha Centauri B, the smaller of the binary stars in the system. For a moment it appeared normal. Then tiny ripples seemed to move across its surface. The computer readings began to fluctuate wildly. What's happening? Eric asked. Natalie studied the data flowing across her screen. The array's energy beam has reached the star's core. It's accelerating the fusion reactions as designed. The effect is building faster than we predicted. Another hit from an Arxur weapon rocked the ship. Lisa reported more hull breaches. The world breaker was being torn apart around them, but no one on the bridge could look away from the screens showing the star. The ripples on Alpha Centauri B grew larger. Massive solar flares began to erupt from its surface, stretching millions of miles into space. The star seemed to pulse, growing slightly larger, then smaller, then larger again. Energy readings are off the scale, Alan said, his voice barely above a whisper. The reaction is cascading beyond our calculations. The Arxur ships had stopped firing. Their boarding shuttles paused, then began turning back toward their motherships. On the communications channel, frantic alien voices could be heard, their translation systems struggling to keep up with their panic. They've detected the stellar changes, Kevin reported. They're ordering all ships to jump out of the system immediately. The star continued to change. Its color shifted from yellow-orange to a brighter, angrier red. The flares grew even larger, some of them stretching almost to the orbit of the nearest planet. The space around Alpha Centauri B seemed to warp and bend as if reality itself was being damaged. This isn't a controlled reaction anymore, Natalie said, her face pale. The star's becoming unstable at its core. We need to get out of here now. Eric turned to Lisa. Jump drive status? Still operational, but at reduced power. We can make the jump back to Earth, but it will take 4 minutes to charge. Begin charging sequence. All power to the jump drive and remaining shields. The Arxur fleet was already moving, their ships turning away from the world breaker, no longer concerned with the human vessel. Several smaller alien ships vanished in flashes of light as they jumped to safety. On the screens, Alpha Centauri B continued its violent transformation. The star's surface roiled and bubbled like a pot of boiling water. Enormous jets of plasma shot from its poles, stretching hundreds of millions of miles into space. Radiation levels rising throughout the ship, Samantha reported. Our shields won't hold against this much longer. Jump drive at 40%, Lisa called out. 3 minutes remaining. The largest Arxur vessels were jumping away now, disappearing one by one. Only a few remained, seemingly struggling with damaged engines or jump systems. The bridge viewports automatically darkened as the light from Alpha Centauri B intensified. The star was now pulsing rapidly, expanding and contracting at an accelerating rate. Each pulse sent waves of energy and radiation washing over the system. "What exactly is happening to the star?" Eric asked, his eyes fixed on the horrifying spectacle. "We've created a chain reaction in the fusion processes," Alan explained. "The star is trying to expand from the increased energy production, but its own gravity is pulling it back inward. The two forces are fighting each other. And the end result?" Alan and Natalie exchanged grim looks. "In a star this size? A collapse followed by an explosion. Not a full supernova, but something similar on a smaller scale. Jump drive at 70%, Lisa reported. 2 minutes to jump capability." Eric watched as the last Arxur ships vanished. High Admiral Zex Kalorn's flagship was the final vessel to jump, leaving only the damaged Worldbreaker facing the dying star. The pulsing of Alpha Centauri b suddenly changed rhythm. Instead of expanding and contracting evenly, it began to collapse inward more rapidly than it expanded. The star's surface fell in on itself, shrinking visibly. "It's starting," Natalie said. "The collapse phase has begun. Jump drive at 90%, Lisa called out. 1 minute remaining." The star continued to shrink, condensing in on itself. Its color shifted again, becoming blindingly bright at its center while darkening around the edges. The space around it bent visibly, light itself being pulled toward the collapsing stellar mass. "Prepare for jump," Eric ordered. "All hands brace for emergency translation." "Jump drive at 98%, Lisa reported. 30 seconds. The star had shrunk to less than half its normal size now. At its center, a point of impossibly bright light formed, while the outer layers continued to fall inward. The laws of physics were being pushed to their breaking point. "Jump in 10 seconds, Lisa counted down. 9, 8, the star reached its smallest point. For a heartbeat, Alpha Centauri b was a tiny ball of super-dense matter. Then it exploded. 3, 2, 1, jump. Light filled every screen and viewport as the Worldbreaker's jump drive activated. The explosion of the star and the energy of the jump drive merged into a single blinding flash. The bridge crew felt the now familiar sensation of the jump, the stretching, the momentary disorientation, the feeling of being pulled in all directions at once. Then, darkness. The view screen showed empty space. Familiar stars. They had made it back to the Sol system. "Jump complete," Lisa reported, her voice shaky. "We're approximately 2 million kilometers from Earth orbit." "Damage report," Eric ordered. "Hull integrity at 37%. Life support systems functional but strained. Engine power at 45%. The Sunbreaker array is completely burned out." Eric looked around the bridge. His crew appeared stunned, their faces showing a mixture of relief at their survival and horror at what they had just witnessed. They had destroyed a star. Not just damaged it or caused solar flares, but actually made it explode. "Communications," Eric said, turning to Kevin. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them—" He paused, searching for words. "Tell them mission complete. The Sunbreaker array was deployed against Alpha Centauri b. The star has been destroyed. Request immediate rendezvous with medical and repair ships." Kevin nodded numbly and began transmitting the message. Alan Wright stood at the science station, looking at the readings from their sensors. "The shockwave from the explosion will reach nearby systems in a matter of days. The radiation and debris will affect that region of space for centuries. We've literally changed the map of the galaxy." Dr. Natalie Garcia sat down heavily in a chair, her hands trembling. "What have we done?" she whispered. No one answered her. The question hung in the air, unanswerable. Eric turned to Lisa. "Take us home, Commander. Best possible speed." The damaged ship limped toward Earth, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Inside, the crew worked to repair critical systems and treat the wounded. But no one spoke much. Each person was lost in their own thoughts, trying to process what they had witnessed and been part of. Hours later, as Earth grew larger in the viewports, a fleet of ships approached the Worldbreaker. Medical vessels, repair ships, and military escorts surrounded the damaged Star Destroyer, ready to bring it safely home. In his quarters, Eric recorded his official report. He described the encounter with the Arxur fleet, their hostile actions, and his decision to use the Sunbreaker array. He documented the unexpected power of the weapon and the complete destruction of Alpha Centauri b. His words were clear and precise, but they couldn't capture the true weight of what had happened. When he finished recording, Eric sat in silence. On his desk was a small photograph of Earth taken from lunar orbit, a beautiful blue sphere against the blackness of space. He looked at it and wondered how that view would change now. Earth was no longer just one small planet among countless others. It was the home of a species that could destroy stars. The quiet skies would never be the same again. Humanity had crossed a line from which there was no return. And somewhere out in the darkness, the surviving Arxur ships were racing home with news that would shake the Confederation to its core. The primitive humans they had dismissed and patronized had shattered a star. The galaxy would tremble at the name of Earth now. For better or worse, everything had changed. 6 months passed. The damaged Worldbreaker had been towed to the massive orbital shipyard above Earth. Repair crews swarmed over its hull day and night, fixing the battle damage and studying its systems. The Sunbreaker array remained offline, its components removed for analysis and secured in separate facilities around the globe and on lunar bases. Captain Eric Daniels stood in his apartment in Seattle, looking out at the rainy city below. He had not returned to space since that day at Alpha Centauri. The morning after landing back on Earth, he had submitted his resignation from the United Earth Navy. His superiors refused to accept it at first, calling him a hero, but Eric had insisted. He could not command a ship again after what he had done. A soft knock sounded at his door. Eric opened it to find Commander Lisa Martinez standing there wearing civilian clothes. She too had left the service, though for different reasons. "They're saying the Arxur are gone," she said without greeting, stepping inside. "Their embassy has been empty for 3 days. All their ships have left our solar system." Eric nodded. This wasn't surprising news. Since the destruction of Alpha Centauri B, the Arxur had gradually reduced their presence on Earth. Their ambassadors had become increasingly scarce at international functions. Their trading vessels had stopped visiting Earthports. "Have they said anything officially?" he asked. Lisa shook her head. "Nothing. They just left a single message with the United Earth government. We did not understand what you were." Those words sent a chill through Eric. The Arxur, with all their advanced technology and apparent superiority, had not realized what humans were capable of. They had treated Earth as a curiosity, a primitive world hardly worth their attention. Now they knew better. "Any word from Dr. Wright or Dr. Garcia?" Lisa asked. "Alan is working with the government on something called the Stellar Preservation Accord, a treaty to ban the use of star-killing weapons except in cases of existential threat. Natalie has gone into seclusion. I heard she's studying ways to repair stellar damage if that's even possible." They sat in silence for a while, looking out at the rain. The world had changed in the 6 months since Alpha Centauri. Astronomers had observed the light from the destroyed star reaching Earth, a brief, brilliant flash in the night sky that had been visible even in daylight for nearly an hour. Every human on the planet had witnessed it, a reminder of what their species had done. "There's something else," Lisa said finally. "Other aliens have been contacting Earth, species we never knew existed." Eric turned to her, surprised. "What do they want?" "Peace treaties mostly. Non-aggression pacts, trading agreements with very favorable terms for Earth." She paused. "They're afraid of us, Eric. Of course they were. Humanity had demonstrated the power to destroy stars. What species wouldn't fear that? The government is keeping it quiet, but there have been at least 7 different alien delegations in the past month. All of them eager to establish friendly relations with Earth. All of them bringing gifts and technology and offers of alliance." Eric felt a deep sadness at this news. Earth was gaining the respect of the galaxy, but not for its art or philosophy or the better qualities of humanity. They were respected only for their capacity for destruction. "We've been invited to a ceremony next week," Lisa continued. "The official decommissioning of the Worldbreaker. They're removing the last components of the Sunbreaker array and placing them in separate vaults around the solar system." "I won't go," Eric said immediately. "I think you should. The crew will want to see you. And maybe it will help you find some peace." Peace. Eric wasn't sure he deserved peace. In his dreams, he still saw the star collapsing, still felt the shockwave of its destruction. He had given the order that changed humanity's place in the universe forever. A week later, despite his reluctance, Eric found himself standing in the massive hangar bay of the orbital shipyard. The Worldbreaker floated outside the transparent aluminum windows, scaffolding surrounding its massive hull. Workers in spacesuits moved around it like tiny insects, removing weapons systems and research equipment. Many of the ship's former crew had gathered for the ceremony. Lieutenant Samantha Ortiz was there, now working on defensive systems for Earth's new fleet. Chief Engineer Paul Johnson stood with a group of technicians, pointing out features of the ship to them. Dr. Alan Wright sat alone, looking older than his years. Admiral Diane Foster approached the podium as the ceremony began. "Today we mark a turning point in human history," she said. "The UES Horizon, known to most as the Worldbreaker, completed its mission and demonstrated that humanity will not be threatened by any power in the galaxy. But the weapon it carried was too dangerous to maintain. By international agreement, the Sunbreaker technology will be dismantled and secured, to be reconstructed only if our species faces extinction." Eric barely listened to the rest of the speech. His eyes were drawn to a quiet figure standing at the back of the room, Dr. Natalie Garcia. She had lost weight and her hair had streaks of gray that hadn't been there 6 months ago. When their eyes met, she gave him a small nod of recognition but did not approach. After the ceremony, Eric walked through the memorial garden that had been planted on the station. Small trees and plants from Earth grew under special lights, creating a peaceful place for reflection. He found himself standing before a simple stone marker. It read, "In memory of Alpha Centauri B, may humanity never forget the responsibility that comes with power." "It's a bit dramatic, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Eric turned to find Natalie standing there. "I don't think it's dramatic enough," he replied. She moved to stand beside him, looking at the marker. "I've been working on a theory. Stars are connected through gravitational relationships across the galaxy. The destruction of one affects others in ways we don't fully understand. We may have changed more than just one small corner of space. Is that why you left the program?" Natalie nodded. "I can't be part of developing weapons anymore. I'm looking for ways to heal now, not harm." She paused. "What about you, Captain? What will you do now?" "I'm not a captain anymore," Eric reminded her. "Just a civilian trying to live with what we did." They stood in silence for a while, watching the Earth turn slowly beyond the station's windows. Blue and white and beautiful, home to the species that had learned to kill stars. "Other aliens are coming to Earth now," Natalie said. "Did you know? Not just the Arxer anymore. Species from all over the galaxy, suddenly interested in diplomatic relations with us. Lisa told me. They're afraid. Yes, but fear can lead to respect and respect to understanding. Maybe in time they'll see more in us than just our capacity for destruction." Eric hoped she was right. The legacy of the Worldbreaker couldn't just be fear. There had to be something more, something better that would come from what they had done. As if reading his thoughts, Natalie said, "The quiet skies will never be the same, but that doesn't mean they can't be peaceful. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do at our worst. Now we need to show them what we can do at our best." In the days and weeks that followed, more alien delegations arrived on Earth. Treaties were signed, technology was exchanged, and humanity began to take its place among the spacefaring civilizations of the galaxy. The Arxur never returned, but other species filled the void they left, many of them eager to learn from the humans who had done the impossible. The Worldbreaker was fully decommissioned, its weapons removed, its hull converted into a space station that would serve as neutral ground for galactic diplomacy. Captain Eric Daniels never returned to space, but he did begin teaching at the Earth Defense Academy, instructing young officers not just in tactics and strategy, but in ethics and responsibility. One evening, a year after Alpha Centauri, Eric walked along a beach near his new home. The night was clear, the stars bright above him. Lisa Martinez joined him, as she often did now. They had found comfort in each other's company, in sharing the burden of what they had witnessed and been part of. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked, a question she had asked many times before. Eric looked up at the stars, at the quiet skies that humanity had forever changed. "I think we showed the universe that humanity will not be threatened or controlled. But I also think we've set ourselves on a path that we can never fully step away from." Above them, the stars continued their silent vigil, witnesses to humanity's ascension to a terrible new status among galactic civilizations, the species that could kill suns. But perhaps in time they would become known for something more, something better, the species that had learned the true cost of power and chosen to use it wisely. The quiet skies would never be the same again. but perhaps they could still be filled with hope.